We used to make so many ships. We don't make them anymore very much, but we're going to make them very fast, very soon.
He wants everyone in America to be welding things, doesn't he? Hello everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Take Note. I'm Huang Jiyuan, and I guess from the short clip, you might have an idea about what I want to talk about today. American ships. Can Donald Trump make American ships great again? So far, his plan, like so many other of his plans, involves some kind of a tariff. Earlier in the year, the Office of the United States Trade Representative proposed charging up to $1.5 million per port call for Chinese-built or owned vessels entering the U.S. ports. It recently held a public hearing about the Section 301 investigation on the matter. Just before the public hearing, the USTR launched an online platform for public submission. We took a look, and it wasn't what Trump might have liked. There were mostly comments opposing the proposal, citing logistical issues, harm to U.S. businesses, and the broader economic damage. Seatrade Maritime News concludes that most of those who have submitted comments so far have pointed out the policies over previous decades that have led to the decline in the U.S.-built and flagged merchant fleet. It really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that this is insane. Even the USTR acknowledges that China produces more than half of the global ships by tonnage. The Americans produce 0.01% in 2024. The World Shipping Council finds that 98% of the ships around the world would be subject to fees when calling on U.S. ports. CNBC reports that in prepared testimony ahead of the hearing, Peter Friedman, executive director of the Agricultural Transportation Coalition, said the nation's agriculture exporters are united in concern and opposition to the proposal. We are not willing to sacrifice America's agriculture and the communities throughout the country that would be economically distressed or worse by a plan such as the present that would eliminate our ability to sell agriculture outside our own borders. Based on recent research, costs from increased fees would result in a nearly 12% drop in U.S. exports and a 0.25% reduction in GDP. Now, even if we don't look at these costs, what Trump is dealing with is a sunk industry in America. The U.S. shipbuilding industry did once enjoy a golden era. During the Second World War, the United States initiated the Emergency Shipbuilding Program to rapidly build naval vessels. From late 1940 to September 1945, nearly 6,000 ships were built under this program. However, after the war, the United States failed to transform its massive wartime production machine into a sustainable industry. The emergency shipyards were either dismantled or mothballed. Data shows when the war ended, the United States accounted for 60% of the world's shipping tonnage. But within 3 years, the figure dropped to 48%. By 1950, it became a marginal producer of commercial cargo ships. And then there was one legislation that kept screwing America up. After the First World War, the United States enacted what was known as the Jones Act. It mandated that all goods shipped between U.S. ports must be transported on U.S.-built, U.S.-owned, and U.S.-crewed vessels. It was passed with the goal to support domestic shipbuilding and other maritime industries.
The Jones Act is a ban on transport between two U.S. ports unless it's on a U.S.-built, U.S.-manned, U.S.-flagged, U.S.-owned vessel.
The Merchant Marine Act of 1920, or the Jones Act, was designed to make sure that America had a viable merchant marine and that it had the ability to repair and build ships, and that was important for our Navy.
It worked. It worked so well that the American builders had little incentive to lower costs, and the U.S.-built ships was far more expensive than ships built anywhere else.
4 to 5 times more expensive to build a ship in the United States than to do so in a place like Japan or Korea or in our NATO allied countries. The difference really is decades and decades of being protected from competition, simply not having to innovate.
With the lack of production capacity and decades of domestic protectionism, the United States shipbuilding industry failed to revive. And now, With the proposal of making shipbuilding great again, the Trump administration is essentially following the same failed policy. Only in today's interconnected world, his failure hurts more than America. According to recent research, if the US imposes additional fees on Chinese-built ships, global shipping costs are expected to increase by $40 billion to $52 billion annually. There would be a 15% to 20% cost increase in American shipping lanes. Of the world's top 10 ship owners, 80% of the container ships to the United States will be affected by the fee.
It could be very detrimental to the shipping and the small and regional port industry as a whole. It could also change the flows of trade where you push to avoid the U.S. ports and those fees.
The U.S. is not omnipotent. It's going to have places where it lags behind. There is a reason, or a lot of the reasons as mentioned, why it has sunk to 19th place in the global commercial shipbuilding. The United States is not going to be making many ships very soon. That's a given. You don't make an uncompetitive industry competitive overnight or with more protectionist barriers. You certainly don't do it by making your people's food price go sky high. It just won't happen.